What is up, everybody? Welcome back to yet another Kansas City Chiefs ShowMeFootball.com post-game show. The Chiefs defeat the Los Angeles Chargers 34-28, primetime Thursday night football in overtime to take full control of the AFC West. They moved to 10-4, and that was one of the most fun Chiefs games I've seen in a while. We'll get into it. That was so fun. I'm joined by Hydra today, as always, who is off his Twitter hiatus now, so you can go follow him, and he'll interact with you. You can follow him. It's literally just his name, Hydra. He has the @ for it, so you can go follow him. I'll link his stuff in the description, too. And, Hydra, your initial thoughts on this game?
It was a classic Chiefs-Chargers game. They're always like that. I mean, it literally, I said it before the show, it doesn't matter who the quarterbacks are, if it's Smith and Rivers or Herbert and Mahomes, it's always like this.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs have owned the Chargers for the better part of Andy Reid's tenure. But as of recently, and I would have said the same about the Raiders until this year, because I think they took a step backwards. But anyway, the Chargers have been creeping up on the Chiefs, and they've been able to put up a fight, as we saw in this game, and obviously they defeated the Chiefs in the last one. Now, that last game, the Chiefs were awful. Their defense was awful. They weren't in sync at all. They turned the ball over a ton, and the Chiefs turned the ball over in this game too, and we'll get to that. But for the most part, they played better than they did in that first meeting, and the defense stepped up when they were missing Chris Jones, missing L'Jarius Sneed, and missing Willie Gay, basically their best player at each level of the defense. And yeah, I think L'Jarius Sneed is better than Tyrann Mathieu at this point. I'll stand by that.
I agree.
I was going to say, I think we agreed on that the last time we were on, but yeah.
It's been a while.
The defense stepped up tonight, and I don't know who to give the game ball to, whether I give it to Kelsey or the defense, because even though Kelsey went off, this defense without them and having a really good performance despite Mahomes putting them in bad situations, despite them being gassed at times, they made plays when it mattered. And I think I'll start with the defense because they, again, did a fantastic job. See, the Chargers, I have the stats in front of me, had 428 total yards of offense. Now, 236 of those were passing, and 192 of them were rushing. But the Chiefs made their money in the red zone. And it's funny because the red zone defense had been an issue ever since Steve Spagnuolo became the defensive coordinator. They've always lacked in red zone defense, but not only have they turned around the defense, but that red zone defense, man, they've really stepped up. The Chargers went for it on 4th down on every single attempt tonight. And the Chargers were
2 for 5.
Yep, 2 for 5 on 4th down. So that's a fantastic job by the Chiefs. There were multiple times the Chargers just could not punch it in. And if they did, this might be a different game. And of course, some of the most unlikely players step up yet again, like Dan Sorensen on the 4th down right before halftime. And then Ben Neiman on the tackle at the goal line. And also Tershawn Wharton pops out the ball from what's his name? Justin Jackson. That's his name, right? The running back for the Chargers.
I couldn't tell you. They used like 4 running backs.
Yeah, I think it was Justin Jackson. He gets the ball knocked out by Tershawn Wharton. The Chiefs get the ball back, and then of course Mahomes throws the interception the very next drive, where the Chiefs pick up, and then the Chargers score. So that kind of didn't matter, but Hydra, what are some of your takeaways from the defensive performance tonight?
So you talked about who gets the game ball. I'm giving it to the guy out of Mizzou.
Yes, sir.
I'll start there because he had his best game today by far.
Mm-hmm.
And not only
what you're saying a lot, considering he single-handedly shut down Derrick Henry earlier this year.
Yeah, and not only that, but he actually wasn't bad in coverage. Like, he proved that he's better than Hitchens in coverage.
Yeah, and Hitchens was not great in coverage tonight. See, Bolton, he had a very generous PFF grade in coverage coming out of college. He also had the most passes defended of any draft-eligible linebacker. He had, I think he either had one more or was tied with Jabril Cox with 12.
Yeah.
I'd have to go back and look. But anyway, Bolton has been someone that if you just put him in basic zone assignments, which they did tonight, and don't leave him on an island with anyone or anything like that, he can make plays in coverage. Like you can get away with, putting him out there a little bit and having him drop back, but just, man to man on a tight end and, putting him in a position where he had to run downfield with someone like he had to earlier this year, that was no bueno. And they tried that a ton and I didn't really understand it. But yeah, Nick Bolton, he had a ton of tackles for a loss tonight. It seemed like he almost had a sack on Herbert, was applying pressure, was laying the wood on guys. I mean, and I know there were doubts from a lot of people before the season started if he was the right pick, and he did struggle early on. And people were like, oh, we should have gotten Terrace Marshall. We should have gotten Diami Brown. And for the record, I was a huge Diami Brown fan.
Yep.
But Terrace Marshall has been a healthy scratch already a couple weeks this year. And Diami Brown, he's been hurt, but he hasn't done much. Nick Bolton has been amazing, and he's sure to stop the run defense issues and roam the field with Willie Gay for the next however many years.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I still think we're going to need to draft a linebacker early again this year. And I know a lot of people don't like that idea. A lot of people want to go like wide receiver first round, but it's just not going to happen. I don't see it.
The thing with linebacker and drafting early, a lot of people freak out about that. Oh my God, what if they draft a linebacker in the second round for the third year in a row? Oh my gosh, what are they going to do? Well, would you rather the linebackers suck? I mean,
exactly.
To me, it's not like I'm not going to complain, especially if they grab a guy that I really like.
No.
But,
yeah, it's just I don't know. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say they could always grab a veteran, in the free agent market too, like a Denzel Perryman or a KJ Wright type of signing, just someone to fill snaps. So. And I'm not saying sign one of those guys, but I'm saying like that type of signing that we saw happen this past offseason, just to clarify.
No, yeah, I think we need to bring in a veteran and draft a linebacker, just to be clear on that. I think we need to go. It needs to be linebacker, corner, or edge round one. Edge, I'm kind of iffy on because I don't know. It just kind of depends who's there when we're picking, to be honest. And we're getting on a tangent here.
Well, already. Yeah, and we'll get right back to the defense right after I say this, but I'm actually not opposed to the idea of them taking a wide receiver in round one. I'm just gonna say it.
I'm not either, but it just depends who's there again. Like
if Jameson Williams is there, he's my dream pick. But
he's gonna go way high.
I don't know, man.
There's right now. I think he's gonna. Sorry.
The wide receiver class is stacked this year, though. So I don't know. It depends on guys like Olave or Wilson go or with David Bell. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, as you said, we're going off on a whole different tangent. Yep. We'll get into draft talk later towards the end of the season. But I said that if the Chiefs have a C+ or better performance in this game on defense, that should be good enough and they should win the game. The offense would have had to score points because I said the Chargers were going to put up points in this game, and they did, 28 points. But I would say that the defense gave you right about a C+ effort. They had to cover in the secondary a lot. And man, those Chargers receivers, they just make insane catches. They're all big bodied. They all have got some speed, and they just make all kinds of circus catches every time these two teams play. Maybe I need to watch more Chargers football, but it was a tough assignment. And I said that, if the Chiefs were going to win this game, don't freaking put Mike Hughes on Mike Williams. That was a terrible matchup when he was on the Vikings. It was a terrible matchup in week 3, and it was a terrible matchup once again tonight. But I'll say this about Mike Hughes, who came off, he's the reigning AFC Defensive Player of the Week, some freaking how. And I know you tweeted that because you were at work during the last game. You go, how did Mike Hughes play good? And I'm like, I don't know, man, but he did. I don't know. But anyways, even though he wasn't great tonight, I will say he didn't stick out like a sore thumb like he did in the other game.
I didn't think he actually played bad. Like, I think kind of like you said,
No.
like it's just all the catches that he did allow were just crazy, and like even think back to week 3, the same thing happened with Snead. Like Snead was always in the right spot, and then yet Keenan Allen, I think it was, had like 2 or 3 amazing catches on him. So it doesn't really matter what corner we put on him. It's just kind of bound to happen that they're gonna go off on us.
Right. I do want to pull up this quick comment from Lego My Ego because I forgot to mention it at the beginning. He says, prayers up for the fallen charger. May God bless him with a successful and speedy recovery. Yeah, that was one of the more terrifying injuries I've seen in a football game.
Yeah.
I can't really tell what happened. I guess his head just hit the hard, really ground. And I guess you kind of go into a seizure after something like that happens occasionally. And he just fell on the ground wrong, but hopefully he's okay. Because, I mean, when he first went down and his hands were like still like in the catching position, I was like,
Yeah.
was he doing that because he missed the catch? And he was like, just, kind of how like you do that, like, oh my God, how did I not make that catch? I was like, oh no, like he's knocked out. Like that was pretty creepy to watch. But
Yeah.
I think the Chargers said he's being evaluated at the hospital right now. I don't know if there's been an update since then, but
Yeah, I just know they said he's
right.
in stable condition, so
All right,
definitely could be worse. Hopefully he's doing good.
Oh yeah, I mean you usually know when it's really bad, and I'm not saying that wasn't bad. Don't get me wrong, but like when like, hey, we're talking about someone's life, and I don't think it ever got to that point, but it was pretty scary.
Yeah.
Also, another cornerback matchup that I was looking for tonight was Charvarius Ward on Mike Williams, because I said that was probably what I would do if I was Steve Spagnuolo, put Ward, the bigger guy, on Mike Williams. And that was a matchup that Ward had to win, that if the Chiefs were going to win this game. And I don't know. I wouldn't quite say, kind of similar to Hughes, I wouldn't say Ward won that matchup, but he did about as well as you could expect Charvarius Ward to do. He had a couple of nice plays, and then there was just other times where Mike Williams just makes an amazing catch because that's what these Chargers receivers do.
Yep. I agree. Yeah, I'd say it was kind of 50-50 on that matchup. Like literally it was one rep, Ward's allowing 10 yards. The next one, he's getting a pass breakup. So
that's literally the story of Charvarius Ward's career. That's literally the story of his career.
Yeah.
Defensive line in this game, they did not do much. No sacks on Herbert tonight. Now, I will say Justin Herbert is really good at evading pressure. He's been one of the best quarterbacks under pressure this year. The Chiefs didn't blitz a ton. They really only blitzed consistently on that last offensive drive for the Chargers. And it ended up working out, actually. But, yeah, we talked about it before we started recording. Without Jones, the pass rush was going to have to step up. And, look, they got close a couple times, but they didn't hit home. And I think the biggest talking point among the defensive line group is Frank Clark. A lot of people said, oh, man, he's going up against Trey Pipkins. He's back this year. He's done really well. This should be a matchup that he wins. You pointed out, remember, Frank Clark went up against the third-string left tackle in a playoff game against the Cleveland Browns and got completely neutralized. And Frank Clark didn't do anything tonight, and that was because Chris Jones was not there, and he was not drawing attention. And basically this game, I think, shows that Frank Clark and really the entire D-line is a product of Chris Jones.
I'd agree. I also, something I didn't tell you before the show, but I did tweet this out. Melvin Ingram was getting held all night long. There was one play in particular.
And
there was one play in particular where the right tackle literally bear hugged him, and the tight end comes around behind him and does the same thing. So we had a guy on the front and backside of him, and it's not called. And I'm just like, what is going on? It was like 3 plays in a row.
And I know there was a play on the first drive of the game, and I don't know if you caught this one, but he got blocked in the back on one of Austin Eckler's runs. And I'm like, how the do you miss that? Like, he clear as day, got blocked in the back at the line of scrimmage. And the officiating for this game, I did see a stat that this officiating crew calls the least penalties out of all of the NFL crews, which, I could tell if I told you that. Well, I did just tell you that. You would believe me because based off this game tonight, I mean, there were a lot of no calls, but you know what? I actually prefer it that way. I think the game was actually called pretty fair, despite some questionable calls and non-calls on either side. Like I thought there should have been a flag for a late hit on the Chiefs' final drive in overtime, and you know the Chiefs kind of got away with Orlando Brown false starting a few times. They also
Yeah.
got away with the Keenan Allen pass interference. Now, that one, I don't think it should have been pass interference, but, you know, you never know with the NFL. Like a lot of times that does get called pass interference. I thought it was a good no call, but you get my point. You know, the officiating, they were very loose in this game, but I enjoyed it instead of flags being thrown every other play.
Yeah, that one long catch that Kelsey had that went all the way down to the one, Lucas Niang was holding on that play, and it wasn't called. I
Yep.
mean, Bosa went to do a spin move, and then he just had him on his back, basically. So yeah, it was just not good for either side of the ball tonight. But I kind of agree with
Right.
you. Like, I'd rather just let it play out that way. Like, and I'd much rather not have a flag every other play. Like, that's just so unenjoyable to watch. So
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'll go over a couple comments before talking about some other bullet points from this game. Kansas City Chiefs points out the Chiefs are the number one seed right now as it stands. The Patriots are yet to play, though, if they win this weekend. And I think they play the Colts this weekend, which that's a game to watch if you're a Chiefs fan. If the Colts win that, Chiefs are in sole possession of the number one seed. Right now, they're tied. Well, actually, no, they're not tied. If the Patriots win this weekend, they're going to be tied. But yeah, for right now, they're the number one seed.
I'm excited, man. I remember like a month or two ago, and you and me were saying this team isn't going to make the playoffs, but even if we're wrong about saying that, we would still love to be proven wrong. And well, so far we're being proven wrong, and I am not disappointed by it at all. You can't complain.
Yeah, I mean, I said to you before we started broadcasting that this was the big roadblock in the Chiefs' schedule the rest of the way. They are now on a 7-game winning streak, for the record. But yeah, this was the game where the Chiefs can just win this one. The rest of the schedule, it's looking real easy. You get the Broncos again, the Bengals, even though they've caught fire this year, that's a winnable game. Steelers, like, come on, the Steelers can't score. You got to win that game, especially with the way the defense has been playing. So yeah, the Chiefs, they should win out. I expect them to win out. I think if they do anything other than win out, it's a failure. I mean, look, they'll still make the playoffs and everything, but like you have to win out. It would be a disappointment if you didn't.
Yeah, I agree. And not only just kind of like to add on to that, I mentioned it to you before. The overtime looked like the normal Chiefs. This is the first time all season where we haven't played the Raiders, and I've been like, oh, I know who this team is. You know, it's like a 20-yard pass to Kelsey, like another 25-yard pass to Hill. And then you got Kelsey on that crazy pass, you know, just avoiding contact constantly and getting into the end zone. Like, that's what we know and what we've seen over the past few years. And it finally looks like we got a rhythm going tonight.
Yeah, and we'll get to the offense in just a minute too. I'm excited to talk about them. I know you guys are putting comments in there about the offense, and I'll get there. Kansas City Chiefs, I know you asked another question about Mahomes. We'll get to it. Chase says Jaron Reed was a no-show. So Jaron Reed, I noticed, did get pushed around a few times, and he also did make a few nice tackles. Now, again, I think this is because the defensive line is largely a product of Chris Jones. When Chris Jones is not there, you know, there's no like, oh, we got to keep this guy in check on the defensive line type of player. That's not Frank Clark and Melvin Ingram, as great of an addition as he's been. He's not that kind of player. And neither is Jaron Reed. So when Chris Jones is here, it really just makes everything go. And, you know, it kind of does show the Chiefs' lack of depth a little bit. I know that's probably one of the last things we should be complaining about in a win where the defense did step up with multiple players out, but it does kind of show their lack of depth a little bit. But I think we also underrated how much Chris Jones means to the run defense. People have never seen Chris Jones as this great run defender, and yeah, he's not the guy making tackles on these run plays a lot. But when Chris Jones is in the game, he's a disruptor, regardless if it's a run or a pass play. And when he disrupts and he blows the guard off the ball or the center off the ball, it makes it a lot easier for people to fill holes. It can mess up the play. It harasses the running back. So, I think the Chiefs did miss Chris Jones in run defense tonight.
Yeah, I think not only, does he disrupt plays on his own, but especially in the run game, like you kind of talked about it, he's always the one drawing attention. So even though he's not regarded as this run defender, he's still guarding or what's the word? He's still like attracting double teams every play. So that
Yep.
is very important to let Jaron Reed get one-on-one opportunities. Same thing with Rashawn Wharton, So he's kind of the thing that makes this whole defense go.
Yeah, definitely. And also Willie Gay not being there too, it makes it a lot harder because he's their most athletic linebacker and he's one of the best at, shooting through the gaps. Nick Bolton is right there with him, but he's not as fast as Willie Gay. So, when they get Willie Gay back and Chris Jones, it's going to look a lot better. And really L'Jarius Sneed too. L'Jarius Sneed is probably their best run defending defensive back. I mean, that guy, He was flying around making tackles when he was out there and healthy. And I hope to God he's back next week.
Yeah, it's just what happened to him is just a tragedy. It's never
especially after that story was just done about him too. Like there was a whole story and like they interviewed his brother for it and everything at the KC Star, and then he's dead like a week later. So
I think that the really one thing that you can take away from his absence though is they talked about this on the broadcast last game and they mentioned it on RGR football earlier this week. When you have people saying, "Hey, here's Tyrann Mathieu, this all-pro safety, and we're going to put him in the slot now to replace L'Jarius Sneed," that kind of shows how good of a player he really is and how important he is to this defense. So when you have Tyrann Mathieu, who's one of, if not the best safety in the league, and you're like, hey, you know what? We're going to replace you with this guy here. Like, that's high praise.
Yeah. And then Slim is chilling, who just jumped in. Good to see you again. He's a regular. He said Nick Bolton is more of a leader than Honey Badger. Don't at me. And then he also says, all that pouting after a big play from your leader can't be helpful for moral. You don't see Nick Bolton pouting, but we pulled through. Now, Tyrann Mathieu is always going to have his outbursts, but I know he does it in good faith. He wants the team to play well. And look, especially at the beginning of the season when he was throwing his hands up every time Dan Soren was getting burnt, I can't really blame him because we were all doing that. Like it sucks when you play any kind of competitive sport and you're on a team and it's always that one guy messing up. I know you want to be a leader, but sometimes I just can't blame guys for showing their emotion a little bit. Now, what I'll say about Bolton is that when Mathieu is gone, or even before he's gone potentially, and Hitchens is gone and Nick Bolton has the green dot, I think he's going to be viewed as more of the leader of this defense than Mathieu is. Because, I mean, you said it, Nick Bolton, he pulls through. He doesn't complain. And I told people this because I'm a Missouri fan, so I watched Nick Bolton for his entire career. And, I love the guy. He was always a leader. I think he's going to be a really good coach one day too, because I remember in the Arkansas game in 2020, he got ejected because of some BS targeting call, but he was on the sideline and he was like coaching the other linebackers up and giving them tips, and he was screaming on the sideline even though he wasn't playing. And I just love him. I love him, and I'm glad he's a Chief, and I really hope I get his jersey for Christmas. I'll say that.
I would argue that he's not the biggest leader in the linebacker room. I think it's Willie Gay.
You think it's Willie Gay. Picture?
I've said it the entire season. Early in the season when we were horrible on defense, who was the one player that was bringing energy every snap, no matter what? Who was and now you see it with all the dancing on the sideline. Even if it's the offense on the sideline, who's the one guy there with them? It's Willie Gay. He's just firing up this team constantly.
Well, regardless of who we think is the better leader, I mean, we're damn lucky to have them as our linebackers
for sure. Future. I can't wait.
Yeah. That's all my notes on the defense, though. I think we covered them pretty well tonight.
Yeah.
I mean,
I didn't have any complaints about them really.
they did a heck of a job stepping up in this game. They really did.
Yeah.
Moving on to the offense, though, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky because even though the offense put up 34 points and won in overtime, and Travis Kelsey was a beast, and you were kind of indifferent when I brought up the play calling when we were talking before.
Yep.
I thought, again, the first 15 tonight, looked really good. Masterful play calling. Michael Burton, of all people, was scoring touchdowns and moving the ball. And then after that, kind of a little bit of nothing for, 5 drives there.
I don't think that was play calling. I think that was Mahomes.
You think so? And look, I'm open to criticizing Mahomes tonight because this game we almost could have lost, and I think it would have been on him if we did. But yeah,
he had multiple like quick reads where he had a wide open guy over the middle of the field, or for example, there was one play where Hardman's open for a touchdown. Then the next drive, he had the same thing with Kelsey, and just was staying on one read and not even looking their way. I think after you tweeted something about the play calling, then I pointed out like he just had 2 bad throws right before that. He had a overthrow to Pringle, and then he had Hardman on a deep route, which I don't think Hardman would have came down with, but he still overthrew it. And then you have obviously go ahead.
Well, I'll just say that real quick. Sorry to cut you off. My problem on that drive, and I agree with you, it was a bad throw by Mahomes straight up. But my problem was, why are you throwing a low percentage route on 3rd down? It was like 3rd and 8 or something like that. I didn't love a go route when Hardman was double covered, but I don't know. That's me.
It's just that home run
I did
speed.
see you point out
shot there.
Yeah, and I understand that. And like I said, sometimes I don't like the play calling just because the play doesn't work. When in reality, sometimes it's a good play call, but the play just didn't work that time. I did see you tweet out though, and I was thinking it as soon as you did, and I saw it on my TV screen. If you guys needed any more evidence, it is Eric Bieniemy calling the plays. I don't know if he calls the plays at the beginning of the game, but he's calling the plays, the majority of them.
Yeah, we've seen it the past few games. They kind of show, the sidelines, and he's the one with the play calling sheet. Also, I believe it was last game or the game before, it was him and Mahomes arguing on the sideline, and people kind of read Mahomes' lips and thought that he was saying like, "Hey, call a fucking good play, or I'm gonna call one."
Yeah.
So that
and I wish you would do that more often.
But yeah, getting back to today, I thought Bieniemy actually did a good job of play calling. I thought just Mahomes, I tweeted this out, he was just so up and down. Like, he was missing those reads, but then, he has that one drive where he's got like the 32-yard run, and he had like 2 scrambles on that game that kind of kept, or on that drive that kind of kept it alive. Like, he just was so up and down to me tonight. And, more evidence of that is he had Hardman wide open for a touchdown on 4th and 1 at like the 1-yard line, and he just throws it into the dirt. Like, he just didn't get his hand on the ball properly, and just had a terrible throw.
He definitely looks uncomfortable. His facial expressions, his body language, it still doesn't feel like the same Mahomes, even though, and despite his turnovers, threw for 410 yards and 3 touchdowns tonight. Yeah, no, I agree. And I do wish he would show his teeth a little bit more with Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah.
You see Tom Brady do that a lot. Like, whatever organization Tom Brady goes to, and I think this is part of the reason why he left Belichick in New England, is Brady has a lot of pull, and if he says, "Hey, that is a crap call, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to audible out of that, and I'm going to go against that," and like, he'll put up a fight when he disagrees with that coach or a coordinator or whatever. Mahomes doesn't really do that. Like Andy Reid, and I said this last week, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, why are you complaining about that?" when it was however many points they won by. It was a blowout. But there was one point late in the game where it was like 4th and 1, and it's like, why not go for it? And Mahomes is like, "Let's go for it. Come on." And Reed is like, no. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Just something irks me about not letting the best quarterback in the league go for it when he wants to go for it. Like, you look at some of these other teams, like the Chargers and Herbert, or the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, or Brady and the Bucks. If any of those guys say we're going for it, their coaches let them go for it. And I know sometimes Reed does that just to protect Mahomes from himself, but like, I don't know, man. In those scenarios where like it's the difference between points and no points or 6 points and 3 points, I really wish they'd let Mahomes call the shots a little bit more often than they do.
I'd agree with that.
I know it wasn't really an issue in this game, and I kind of went on a mini rant there, but
Yeah.
yeah, it does annoy me a little bit. But yeah, Mahomes, he was only 31 of 47 tonight. A lot of miscommunication. There were a lot of plays where he throws the ball and the receiver isn't even looking. Like even that
Yep.
last drive in overtime, he like threw the ball right at Kelsey's back, and that's just that kind of stuff. That's not stuff this offense did in the past, and it is very strange. And the interception with Nwosu, the defensive end for the Chargers that
That's
he
not
had near
Mahomes.
the goal line. That's on Mahomes, and that's something that if I had a critique of Mahomes' game, that's been one of them. He does not account for the defensive end or the defensive linemen in general, sticking their arm up in the air and knocking down a pass. He doesn't account for it a lot, and sometimes it comes back to bite him. What's his name? Jalen Phillips of the Bills. He did that to him in the Bills game. Shelby Harris for the Broncos. He's gotten Mahomes with that several times, sticking his hand up. And it happens to every quarterback, but sometimes Mahomes, he just doesn't account for it. And I think it's something that he should work on a little bit more. Or maybe his throws need to be a little bit higher. I don't know. But I do notice a lot that defensive linemen are pretty good at baiting Mahomes into a throw right into their hands.
I agree. We saw that a couple times tonight also. It wasn't just on the interception, but I think earlier in the game it was the same guy that had did that before. So yeah, they're definitely good at baiting him into it. It's just he's not a check down merchant, and it's just I hate that he's trying to turn into one. I hate it.
So and I think some of it is because players, they won't openly say this, but I think he does hear some of the outside noise, and I think maybe even the coaches are saying this to him. You got to take the check down. You got to take the check down. And he kind of wants to become that player that everyone wants him to be. And he's making an effort when really he just needs to go back to what he does well. So, and look, I'm fine if he checks down here and there to a running back, and he did that more tonight. And I've noticed him do that more than he really ever has. But Pat, like, if you see something and you want to go for it, like, just like Andy Reid said in the Super Bowl, like, keep slinging it. Like, that's just who Mahomes is.
There's just so many critiques I have for this offense, though, when it comes to that. Like, I tweeted this a while ago. I don't think I was on the show for this. But if we're not going to utilize McCole Hardman, put him in the backfield and put him on wheel routes. Or run stretch with him. Don't do it with Clyde. Literally, just use him for that. I know he's got a fumbling issue. Okay, put two hands on the ball. Literally, that works. Wheel routes, it would work for Darrell Williams if we play him on one.
Well, and Clyde already has 3 fumbles this year.
Yep.
So it's not like he's been super clean either. And let's get to Clyde, because I think this was one of his worst games as a Chief. People might be like, what are you talking about? Yeah, no. Vision was terrible tonight. And I think, and I tweeted this out, and I saw that you liked it. So I think you saw this. When he goes up against more athletic defenses, his lack of speed really shows up. I saw him dancing at the line of scrimmage a lot. He ran into the blocker's back on one of his runs. And just when he tries to, bounce outside or try to dance at the line of scrimmage like he was doing today, because he did that against the Raiders and was able to get away with it a couple times. And one of them, he had a really nice shake on a run that went for a touchdown. But like against the Chargers, man, and their athletes, it doesn't really work all that well. He just was not that effective tonight. 9 carries for 32 yards. That's 3.6 yards per carry. I was disappointed we didn't see more of Derek Gore tonight. He's your fastest running back, and when it was clear Clyde's lack of speed was hurting this team trying to run the ball, and I saw a lot of people tweeting tonight, Chiefs need to run the ball, commit to the run. I wouldn't commit running the ball with Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
No.
I mean, not tonight. He just didn't have it.
I agree. I wouldn't say it's like his worst game or one of his worst games. I thought he did okay. I mean, look, sometimes, you kind of talk about him running into blockers, but like sometimes the holes just aren't there. And he's not Jamal Charles. He can't cut back and run across the entire field. Like we don't have him anymore, right? So like we can't expect our running backs to make those kinds of plays. But I know what you mean. Like you look at, the past few weeks and he's actually looked pretty good. He's been able to, kind of bounce off those tackles at the line of scrimmage. And I saw actually a lot of hype this week on Twitter about him being able to do that, and people saying like, "Oh, I thought you guys said Clyde couldn't do that." Well, tonight he kind of showed that he can't do that. So
Definitely not on a
yeah.
consistent basis and
No.
against really good competition too. There's also this chart that came out this week. I don't know if you saw it, but it showed it was like one of those defensive end charts that I reference a lot, like when I'm talking about Frank Clark. But it was run block win rate for an offensive line, and then running backs yards over expected, which basically just shows how well a running back is doing, and also the kind of run blocking they're getting paired with what they're doing, if that makes sense. I wish I had the chart to pull up, but I'm not going to mess with it right now.
I know what you're talking
about. The Chiefs were they have elite run blocking this year. They were right there with the Cowboys with like the best run blocking O line. They're basically in their own stratosphere with Dallas. And he was about league average, maybe a little bit below average if I went back and looked, to be specific. But he was either right at the middle line or right below it, and that's with elite run blocking. Bottom line, you got to have a running back that can take advantage of the holes that this offensive line opens up for Clyde. And that's what I'm talking about, the lack of explosiveness, the lack of speed. I hate it, man. I really do. And people keep saying, well, they don't use him like they should. And, they don't really utilize him in the passing game. And, at some point we got to stop contemplating about what Clyde Edwards-Helaire could be and acknowledge what he is. And trust me, I am all for criticizing how Andy Reid uses certain players. I know this coaching staff has a tendency to put players in positions that they're not able to succeed, but with running backs, I mean, the job is a little bit more cut and dry, even though there's different running schemes and stuff like that. Like I know this team, they try to run these running backs on these outside runs and runs where you need speed to hit the hole, and they're not really about that. You want them to run more power. But even when they're running power, the lack of speed shows up and the lack of explosiveness shows up. Like, for example, Derek Gore, he had a 51-yard touchdown run against the Raiders. That was the longest run of a Chiefs running back since Damian Williams in 2019, the 90-yard TD run versus the Vikings. Like, when is Clyde going to be that back that everyone wanted? Like, and I know the picks are hindsight and people get sick of having the conversation over and over again, but we're having it again tonight. Yeah. Surprise. Right. But people keep saying, oh, we need to give Clyde time. They're not using him right. Like it's been 2 years, man. Like it didn't take Kareem Hunt 2 years to be as good as he was. Like at some point we just have to admit. And I think the Chiefs undersold the lack of speed. I think they undersold his catch radius. And I think that's why they don't use him in the passing game a lot. They seem to trust Darrell Williams a lot more in the passing game. But yeah, like with Kareem Hunt, for example, I mean, you knew right away he was special. I don't feel Clyde is special.
I agree. And I actually want to throw this out here. This is probably a hot take. The perfect running back for the scheme that we run right now is Knile Davis. That's probably surprising to a lot of people, but I feel like Knile Davis, had he had this kind of power gap, run offensive line would be phenomenal. Now I'm sitting here thinking
they just need someone that's more explosive than what they got. They really do.
Yep.
Getting back, my guy Solo Chiefs. I'll say this real quick. My guy Solo Chiefs on Twitter, he did bring up the idea of maybe making a run at Raheem Mostert this offseason. I wouldn't be all for that signing in particular, but definitely a guy like that and can do some of the zone running that the Chiefs ask of their running backs. But can also see, here's the thing with the Chiefs running backs, people keep saying you got to run power with them. You got to run power with them. But, you don't want a running back that's limited to only running power. An athletic running back, a good running back like Jonathan Taylor, for example, he can run power or zone running if you ask him to. These guys can't.
Yeah, I really wanted Taylor during the draft. I know a lot of people didn't want us to take a running back first round. I actually did want us to take a running back, and I wanted it to be Taylor. So yeah, I'm still pouring salt in that wound.
Yeah, and like Slim, he says CEH isn't even close to Sproles. Stack says hilarious Westbrook and Sproles without their awareness IQ. And it's sad because Andy was comparing this guy to Brian Westbrook whenever we drafted him, and he's not Brian Westbrook. I mean, that was a massive stretch. Not that anyone expected him to be Brian Westbrook, but like he's like, would you even say he's a top 15 running back in the league?
No. Because not only does he lack explosion and production, he also has proven to be injury prone on top of that. And I think that's something that a lot of people undersell, but he's missed a good amount of time in each of his seasons with the team. So I don't know.
Yeah,
We're kind of getting off on like
you're as small as him.
Yeah, we're kind of getting off on like a negative tangent here. I want to get back to the game tonight. I think someone that made a pretty big impact, especially late in the game, that I noticed was Demarcus Robinson. He had a lot of double move routes where I saw him purposely kind of clearing out the safety above Tyreek Hill, and it was allowing him to get open underneath. And I think that's something that once like the all 22 comes out, is people are going to start talking about. I thought he actually had a really good game tonight, even though he wasn't targeted at all, I don't think. He also had like that one play where he kind of blocked for Pringle to allow him to get a first down.
Filling in that Josh Gordon role.
Yep. Oh my. Okay. Do you think we throw a Hail Mary there in the last 5 seconds instead of taking a knee if we have Josh Gordon?
My God, dude, field goal, Hail Mary, something like that. Like, and I've noticed a lot of coaches in modern day football do this. Like, they take a knee right there in that scenario. There's zero risk in taking a shot there. I mean, unless you think they're going to return a 105-yard interception or something like that. But that's about as likely as me getting struck by lightning. So, like, I would have taken a shot there. I would have.
I think if Josh Gordon was in the game, that's a scenario where we're like, hey, this is a 50-50 ball receiver, right? Like,
or even Jody Fortson. Heck, man, could you imagine if we still had Fortson? We have him, Gordon, and Kelsey. We just send them all down.
Not only that, but Tyreek was kind of hurt at the end of the game there. So I wonder if that played a factor in the decision. Like, oh, we can't, like, we have the best deep throw in the league, but we can't really use him here. So there's not really a point. Like, do we want Demarcus Robinson running 50 yards downfield? I don't know if that's something we want.
Or like one of those Tyreek like underneath throws when the defense is in prevent defense.
Yeah, like the Dallas game.
Yeah, like the Dallas game. But like, man, even that when that happened, like that was a play that like never successful for anyone. But Tyreek Hill did it because he's Tyreek Hill, and that was one of those plays where like everyone remembers that play. Everyone knows that play. These players that are in the NFL, like they know, oh, remember that one time Tyreek like scored against the Cowboys on prevent defense. So now they account for it, and that's probably never going to happen again. Now, well, Tyreek Hill is amazing, so who knows? Maybe he would be able to do it again, but that's something where like you're not catching anyone off guard doing that because they're accounting for Tyreek Hill. But yeah, Tyreek Hill, speaking of him in this game, was a huge factor. He did everything tonight. If I have it in front of me, 12 receptions for 148 yards and a touchdown. And he wasn't even the best offensive player in this game. But holy cow, that catch that he made on the sideline with the defender draped over him. I forget who was in coverage on him. I mean,
number 20.
I really hope all those. Yeah, I really hope all of those Tyreek Hill isn't a complete receiver casuals. We're watching this game tonight because your favorite receiver doesn't make that catch.
It's weird what happens when you have Kelsey and Hill not dropping passes. Like, it's almost like we look normal. Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, Tyreek Hill did a fantastic job tonight, and there were multiple times where, I mean, the Chargers, and if Asante Samuel plays in this game, he didn't play. Maybe things are a little bit different, but they just had to hold him because they had no other choice, and it got called a flag. And Mahomes, like, he knew, like, oh, I can throw it deep to Tyreek Hill, and they're going to get a pass interference or a holding because, I mean, they didn't really have anyone that could guard him one-on-one.
Yeah, I agree. I just miss Jody Fortson, man. We need that third option.
And I still am holding out hope that Gordon can be that third option. Some people the ship has already sailed for them, but and you weren't on to talk about this, but they did make an effort to get Josh Gordon involved finally, and good things happened against the Raiders, and they were actually targeting him, and I just really hope that picks up as the season goes on, because if he can emerge and be if he can be Sammy Watkins level impact, somewhere close to that, that adds a whole new dynamic to this offense.
He's not going to be Sammy Watkins. I mean, that's my guy right there. But
if he can be like 75% of Watkins, like the defensive backs take him seriously, and they just have to account for him, then. Because here's my problem is with a lot of these guys that the Chiefs are hoping emerge as that wide receiver too, like Pringle or Hardman. There were a lot of times where they would go weeks on end without any targets. Well, when the defense knows that your first two reads are Kelsey and Hill, and you're likely not going beyond those first two reads, they're not going to respect these other receivers you have. Why would the defense respect Josh Gordon if you don't even target him? Because they didn't.
Yeah, I think to see like a true number 2 wide receiver out of Josh Gordon, you need like 2018 Demarcus Robinson production. I'd say if he can be that, then he'd be a solid option, and then maybe he can stay for next year, like he kind of talked about, like he wants to be here for a while.
Or like a Chris Conley type.
Who we never used, right?
Yeah. Even though he had the skill set, but
yep,
it's whatever. Also, offensive line, I did talk about it earlier. Orlando Brown looked like he got away with a few false starts tonight. Oh, well, it is what it is. Thanks, officials. But I actually thought he did all right tonight. Entire offensive line, really. Even Lucas Niang, I thought, did a decent job on Bosa. Bosa was going to get the best of him at some point, which he did a couple times. But Niang, considering it was his first game back healthy, pretty good. And the other time he went up against Joey Bosa in week 3, I mean, he got beat like a drum. Excuse me. So I thought this game was progress for Lucas Niang.
Yep, that's my guy right there. He's going to be the future right tackle of this team. He's got.
You've been his biggest fan since day one.
He has the highest ceiling of any tackle on this team.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I even was talking myself at one point into, hey, maybe we should try him out at left tackle when Orlando Brown was struggling. But
yeah,
I also got a comment about Orlando Brown here. Yeah, I mean, if Orlando Brown gets injured at some point, like we can try it. He says Orlando Brown is not a top level talent. I've been seeing a lot of Orlando Brown hate in my comments after every game for some reason, and I don't understand it. Like, yeah, he's not a top tackle in the league, but one, he's still young, and two, he's been pretty damn good as of late. He's getting comfortable. He's putting players on the ground more. He's settling into the offense, and he was still, I'll stand by this. He was I cannot talk. He was the best option at that point in time. Like, he was better than any rookie you would have drafted. I mean,
I agree.
I think I would still go back and do the move again.
The thing with the Orlando Brown trade is we did overpay for him, and we're going to overpay for him with an extension. But like you said, he was the best option available. I mean, do you want Mike Remmers out there? No. Did you want an unproven Lucas Niang out there? No. Like, he was the best option. I probably would have drafted Samuel Cosmi, but that's just me. But Brown has been fine. He's been about what I expected him to be. But even with those
guys, and I do like Cosmi, and I liked Eichenberg and a couple of those other prospects. But even with guys like that, like, a lot of them are playing right tackle. Like, and I don't know how they would fare if they were being thrown into left tackle. I think whatever those guys would give you at left tackle this year as a rookie would be no better than what Orlando Brown is giving you now. And that's why I like the move.
Agree.
And it was too big of a risk. It just was. And unless the Chiefs were able to trade up into the top 10 of the draft and grab Rashawn Slater or someone like that. This was their best option.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he was the best option available. Like you said, we could have traded up. But then again, I go back to, we probably would have overpaid in that trade because moving forward, the way all these contracts are set up, we need a lot of picks to bring in those rookie deals.
Yeah.
So we just need to basically hit on our picks these next few years and we'll be fine. But yeah.
Yep. Agree. And then my final bullet point for this game on offense and the star of the game tonight, Travis Kelsey, 10 catches for 191 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mr. Washed Up, as they call him. And I don't know if you saw this, but officially the only tight end in NFL history with 6 straight 1,000 yards receiving.
And 8 straight 850 yards receiving.
Yep. And I forget how many receptions he has this year, but he's on pace for like
I think he had like
73,
73, I want to say, going into this game.
Yeah, so he could easily reach 100 receptions again this year.
Yep.
Which is insane. Yeah, I mean, if you guys needed any more fuel to the debate for Travis Kelsey that he's better than George Kittle, I mean, there you go. I can't believe that's still an argument. I really can't.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, honestly, it wouldn't even be a debate anymore if Kelsey and, didn't have all these drops. That's honestly the only reason, because Kittle had a really good game the other day. I think he's actually had like back-to-back, like 150-yard receiving games. So, I mean, he's been kind of getting hype recently, and Kelsey had kind of been quiet. And then now this game is just going to kind of silence everyone that was kind of saying otherwise.
Yeah, and man, this is gonna be kind of me going on the rant a little bit. Travis Kelsey, one of my biggest annoyances with the debate between him and Kittle is people go, "Oh, well, Kittle is blocking, blah blah." It's like, do you guys even watch Travis Kelsey? Like, and I'm not saying he's as good of a blocker as Kittle, but like people say he can't block, and I don't know where that narrative came from. He will consistently block and then run a route on the same play and make a catch. He's been laying the wood on some of those screen plays for years, like Tyreek Hill's rookie year. On a couple of Tyreek Hill's big plays, Travis Kelsey was there as one of his lead blockers. Travis Kelsey can absolutely block. He had a better blocking efficiency than George Kittle last year. Travis Kelsey also, I don't understand this whole blocking thing because people are so fascinated with it. Well, here's the thing. George Kittle plays in an offense that runs the ball a lot. They ask Kittle to block a lot because that's what he's good at. Okay, fine. Good for Kittle and good for the Niners. They're using a player to his strengths. What do you know? Well, Travis Kelsey, he plays in a passing offense. He's he's the greatest receiving tight end of all time. He's the best route runner at tight end. So why would you not, a majority of the time, use him as a receiving tight end? You don't need him to block if he's one of the best receiving tight ends in the game. That's like making Julio Jones a blocking wide receiver. It's stupid. And that's why that whole argument to me is ridiculous.
It would be like turning Julio Jones into Josh Gordon.
Yeah, like what we've done with Josh Gordon.
Yep.
It's just stupid. Travis Kelsey, greatest tight end of all time. Chiefs, number 1 seed.
Tony
They moved
G.
to 10-4. Yep. Well, he's going to surpass Tony G by the time it's all said and done. But they're both better than Gronk. I'll say that. But yeah, I mean, that was a fantastic game. How do we go to sleep after that?
We don't.
I mean, this just feels like, I don't know. This just feels like a game that like we have to throw a party for. Like I can't. Like
yeah, I mean, like I said, it feels
game,
like
man.
the old Chiefs are back. Like I know the defense allowed 28 points, but those were mostly on the offense kind of stalling out. Like because we saw the defense actually played really good considering who they had to work with tonight. So, I mean, overall, like we saw the offense get going at the end of the game there. The defense had some, great stops today. Like I'm excited. We beat the Chargers, who if they had beaten us had a real good shot at getting the 1 seed over us because they would have the tiebreaker if they were to beat us and then win out the rest of the year. So, I mean, I feel good about this. I feel good about the team. I feel good about everything.
Yeah, I think the division is pretty much a wrap after that. I mean, the Chiefs, they're just hot right now. Now they beat the Chargers, pushed them down in the division. So yeah, you got to feel really good coming out of this game. To me, this was a must-win game, and they won. And honestly, I think I saw someone tweet that I think it was PFF Eric. He was like, "If this is the AFC West for the next 10 years, oh my," or something like that. I'm like, man, let's be real. The Chiefs run away, and they run away with this game if Jones, Snead, and Gay play.
They run away if
Just
Mahomes plays to his potential.
right. Yeah. I mean, I think Mahomes is having a little bit of a down year. I don't think at some point, like he's gonna be Mahomes again. Because I even tweeted at some point, like, what happened to the Mahomes that used to carry this team? Like, this was a game where the offense needed to step up, like snap out of it. And look, they had a couple rough patches, but other than that, because you said, it felt like the old Chiefs were back. And the offense, I thought that they moved the ball better in this game. People wanted to see that what they did against the Raiders wasn't just a fluke. I said that I didn't think it was just a fluke, and I said continuously that I have confidence that the Chiefs offense will get it together just because, they always do. But yeah, I mean, I wanted them to go out and prove that the old Chiefs are back. They're back. I think I can confidently say that. They still got a few things to work on, but they got the job done. They didn't curl up into the fetal position. They went out there and they won this game like they should have.
Yeah. I agree.
That's all I got. You got any more closing thoughts?
I think I'm good with that, to be honest.
All right, sounds good. We're at about an hour anyway, so that's a good length. And I know it's really late, and I appreciate all of you that are watching tonight. We still got a good crowd even now. Yeah, and again, late night. It's a weeknight. Some of you have work, and there's other streams we're competing with. So we always appreciate when you guys come and join our stream. It means a lot. And if you're still watching, make sure you like, share it, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. You can also do that after the fact, even if you're not watching this live. It really helps so we can get found and continue growing the channel. Make sure you go and follow Hydra on Twitter. You can also follow me on Twitter at JoshFan43 or my other account at ShowMeFB for Show Me Football. But yeah, we'll see you in the next one.